Oh, well, welcome everyone. This is Novo Manna from Collective HR Solutions, and welcome to another session of the Technology Review Council. And today we are very, very pleased to be hosting, although I'm not quite sure that we're hosting anything except to say good friends are here amongst us. And that is Diana and Whitney from Pendolino Group. And they're here to talk to you about ProcessPro. And I will tell you, if at the end of this you are not amazed by the product, well then call me. But Diana and Whitney, if you'd be kind enough to introduce yourself, and we'll just roll on into this.
Absolutely. Thrilled to. Thanks so much, Nov. It's great to be here. It's always good to be back with friends and seeing you again. And so my name's Diana Willis, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Pendolino Group. Here with everyone today to talk a little bit about ProcessPro, of which I'm a board member, investor, and a massive fan of this particular solution. And I'll turn the virtual mic over to you, Whitney.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here. I'm a consultant with the Pendolino Group, and like Diana, share a strong affinity for and passion for all things process related. I've been a strong proponent of and believer in the power behind ProcessPro, and I'm excited to get to share a bit today.
Fantastic. And we also have a special guest who is making a cameo appearance here as well. James, I'm going to put you on the spot for a moment. We have James Ross here as well, who is the CEO and the founder of ProcessPro. Say hi, James.
Yeah, thank you very much, Diana. Yeah, I thought I'll jump on and say hi and how everyone's doing. Yeah, perfect.
Fantastic. Yeah, so James is joining us from Italy, so we'll have a little bit of that special flair, special Italian flair today. So thanks for popping in. Appreciate it. So Nov, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here with the group and just really be able to talk a little bit about processes. As Whitney said, we're big fans of processes, primarily fans of processes because of the way that they really help us in the HR world and the business world, help us what I say codify what we do in our businesses and help us achieve a way of being more effective, more efficient, communicating more effectively with everyone on the team. And quite frankly, when you've got a good foundation like that, it really lets the team focus on what you love doing most, right? Which is serving your clients, achieving your mission, going after what your strategy is, building a business, whatever that is, right? And I think the world of processes, let's face it, kind of had a bad rap, right? There are all kinds of stories about processes slow us down and it takes a lot of time to create stuff. And, I don't have the time to do that, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But processes, interestingly enough, they've been a large part of my HR career and my business career. I am an HR veteran, 30 plus years in the HR space. I'm a business owner. Started Pendolino Group in 2009, and we've been moving along and growing, and a lot of that has been on a foundation of having processes in place to one degree or another. And and I'll be honest, I mean, there are times that we've had very few processes in place and we're just kind of going at it. And then other times is we take the time and we put the platform in place, we put the tools in place, and it really helps us go faster, interestingly enough. So what I want to share with you a little bit about today is ProcessPro and this particular solution. And from your perspective, as part of the tech environment, getting your perspective on it and seeing how this may be beneficial for you, may be beneficial for your teams as well, or others that you know. A very wise coach and mentor of mine once told me, Diane, it's not about what you know, it's about who knows what you know. And so I'm a strong believer in our community, right? Our HR community, our technology community, and the greater awareness that we have of what each other are up to, that we can actually, help each other out. We can help our businesses out, help our companies out, help our teams out. by being able to connect the dots, so to speak. So what I want to dive into is the world of processes and a little bit about ProcessPro and what we're doing with this particular technology. And this builds nicely on our conversation just a few weeks ago, as we were talking about the HR assessment and being able to identify areas from an HR perspective, an HR functional perspective, and an operational perspective. Identify areas that are important and that may be in need of focus. So once we have that kind of information in hand, processes can be tremendous benefit for us to help us drill in even deeper. What are we doing and how do we do it? And how do we do it better? Okay. So I'm going to go through a little bit of the process world and where we have certain challenges. And I think some, if not all of these, will probably appear familiar to you. I've got a little poll that I thought would be fun to do here as well, just to get some insights, and it is multiple choice, so don't worry, there's no right or wrong answer on it. You get to choose multiple answers, in other words. And then I want to just give a little demo of the ProcessPro solution and how we match up with the HCM diagnostic assessment that you learned about just recently. And then opportunities to engage a little bit further. Recognizing that some of you here in the room are influencers, some of you in the room are decision makers. You may be coming from very different perspectives. And so what I hope is that the offer that we have for you today, and for everyone in this community, the standing offer that we have, is the opportunity to be able to get in and test out ProcessPro a little bit in your environment and see how it might play quite nicely. So what I'd like to do is just kind of ask this question and get us all thinking in the world of processes. So think for a moment as you reflect on this in your organization, right? What is a challenge that you've personally faced or you've seen organizations face that are related to processes or the lack of processes, right? For example, and you can throw some answers in the chat if you don't mind, so we can make it a little interactive here. For example, when you onboard somebody new onto your team, do you have a consistent way of onboarding? Now, this is independent of whatever HRMS you might be using. So independent of Workday or Gusto or Bamboo or the Paylocity, whatever it is, set that aside. That's a system. That is not a process. That is a tool that is used in a process. Okay, so I'm gonna just kind of put a pin in that so we've got clarity around that. But think about, what's a challenge that you've personally faced where you've seen organizations struggle with related to processes. So if you're offboarding, for example, do you consistently offboard people, or is it kind of a crapshoot, so to speak? Sometimes we forget to collect the computer, or especially in this hybrid environment now, right? We've got people, team members that are all around the country or all around the world for that matter. It's introduced a whole nother layer of complexity, right? Think about times when maybe you found yourself or a team that you're working on hitting the wall, so to speak, right? So you're working through stuff, but then boom, you get bogged down. Okay, I mean, these are areas where processes can also pop up. Okay, so we want to be thinking about that as well. Okay, thinking about how your client experience is. Patrick, that was just a great comment right there. What is your client experience? Is it consistent? All right, can your client or your clients or your customers, if you're a B2C company or a B2B company, can your customers consistently expect the same results? And is that level of expectation, that level of performance and delivery, is that consistent? And is it as high as you want it to be? Okay. So we want to be thinking about these types of things because underlying all of these pieces are processes. And the truth is that everything we do is a process. And we either have those processes well understood and consistently executed, or we have random processes. Okay, so that really is what is at the foundation. Okay, Now you can start to get a feel just as you're thinking about some of these examples, all right? You know, having the clarity. Thank you, Whitney. Great point, right? Who does what when? Okay. So showing up for today, you know, in our preparations behind the scenes, and you know, everybody here knows when you're preparing for a meeting or some kind of training or an event or just to share information, that there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. Having clarity, you know, Nova was going to take care of a certain piece, I would take care of a certain piece, Whitney was taking care of a certain piece. So we all knew who was doing what, and we were able to very seamlessly and joyfully arrive here today. Okay. So these are the types of things that we want to be thinking about, that we've got processes behind. Now, I'm going to run through some examples. Before I do that, let me drop in a quick poll here real quick, because I just want to get your thoughts. All right. So I'm launching this poll here, and I would just love to get your input of what's true for you with regards to your use of processes. Okay. So I just launched this poll. You should all be able to see the poll here now as well. And you can just go through and you can answer it and choose what's applicable for you. Okay. And Nov, can you give me a quick check? Are you able to see the poll on your end?
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So just tell me what's true for you. And there are all right answers here. Okay. You know, sometimes, yeah, sometimes they slow us down. No, okay, we don't have them documented yet. That's great, right? They take too long to create. No, nobody's saying that yet. That's good. What's amazing, and I'm going to show you inside of ProcessPro, is that we have a direct integration with ChatGPT, and we can create a process like that. You're going to love that feature. And we've also built in a library of APQC processes, which I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of APQC and what all of that is. But let me just say that we have a complete library of processes available to you that you can actually just pick off the shelf and bring into your environment, and then you can just tweak it and modify it, and you're up and running. Because one of the things that we know is true is that processes are highly valuable for training people, for audit purposes, having them all in one spot and being able to communicate consistently, okay? Being able to show who's doing what, okay? And I'll leave that process, that poll up here for a moment as well, okay?
Diana, this is Nov. Just a very quick comment to what you're saying. So whether we have the processes documented or not, which I suspect is usually more not, the idea that a job description and what a person does continues to diverge, if you will, tremendously in some cases. You know, I was told I was going to do this when I got here, and now on a daily basis, I do these things. I think the value that we miss in that is that we're taking the reality of what a person actually does and documents it. We find the ability to say all the little things. I need to go call Diana for this, get approval from Whitney to do this. It's not in the job description, and it's sure not anywhere else. It's things I have to learn. So really what you're providing is actually also a learning tool for the future. If I replace or move along, at least I know I can seed and transfer that knowledge over much more readily. I'm seeing people trying to use videos, but I don't want to steal the thunder of the other part of ProcessPro, but it's documented and it is easy to understand it. So I just want to put that out.
Yeah, that's really a great point. Because when you have this kind of visibility, you know, what is somebody doing? What are they responsible for? And really down to the task level, the activities level in processes, and you're able to look across multiple processes. You know, the other thing that you can do, Nov, as a result, is that you can start to see where there are bottlenecks.
Yes.
So, right, Whitney is a rock star, and every project that we have, it's like, give it to Whitney. Whitney can really drive this thing home. And the next thing you know, Whitney is like, holy smokes, I can't take any more on. But if I don't have visibility into that, right, I'm kind of hamstrung, right? So this is absolutely a way of not only being able to see precisely what somebody or what a position is responsible for, and somebody in that position, what they'll be doing very specifically and beyond a job description, which, you know, those tend to be so high level, right? And so it gives you that visibility, but then it also gives you the visibility of where you might have bottlenecks, or you might have work that needs to get done that nobody's covering. You have potential
Exactly.
gaps or risks. Yeah. Yeah,
Perfect.
exactly. So, so often I'm just going to go through a couple of things, and some of these might be familiar to you. And these are the types of problems that, we laid out. We're just really focused on how do we solve for these things. And I think we've done a pretty good job, under James' leadership,
Yeah.
and really driving, focusing on that with the engineering team. I think they've done a really, really good job in this
So,
space.
Diana, do you want me to close the poll? Because that's still showing up.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go
I'm
ahead and
sorry.
close
My
it.
apology. I meant to do that. And
Yeah,
sharing the
thank you.
results out
Share the
there.
results. Beautiful.
Okay.
All right, awesome.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. All right,
Done.
fantastic. All right, so some of the things that you may be familiar with, right? Processes, we put them up on a whiteboard, ends up in a document somewhere, tucked off in a corner somewhere, and we're never quite sure what it is. This is that great example. We document it once and then we forget about it. Okay. Another issue to that point is updating processes, right? Sometimes it can be so absolutely cumbersome to update them. So it takes time to get them documented, although we're shortening that time aspect dramatically, you'll see in a moment. But then we need to update them, okay? So we've also solved around that, how to quickly update things, how to be able to real time to update, and how to actually get information from other people. So you're collaboratively updating processes. So gone are the days of the old traditional process mapping, which very few people knew how to do or were trained how to do, and the software itself was quite cumbersome. Those days are gone. We've designed a solution that is intended to build collaboration. It is intended to work across distributed workforce hybrid environments. Okay. Now, it is also intended to be a tool that helps you in communicating, not only codifying and standardizing, but communicating those processes, right? Making sure that real-time information is available to people that are doing the work, back to the point of who is doing what and how, okay? And if something changes, how quickly can you communicate that out to people, okay? Again, even more paramount now that we're in the type of work environment, work structures that we're in, okay? Challenges with just finding and retrieving processes, right? Historically, they were in binders. They might have been in files on your desktop or in the cloud somewhere. Organization of all of that information has historically also been a problem, okay? We know when that happens that we end up creating them again, or duplicating efforts, okay? So we want to get around that as well. We've also solved for how to be able to retain tribal knowledge in the organization, right? So especially, if we look at industries where there's a lot of turnover, okay? If you imagine that you're working with a team and you've got some large projects that are underway, some coding projects that are underway, and maybe one of your coders leaves and they've been working on a certain piece, how do you retain that knowledge? How do you keep it with the team? If you've got a work environment where there's a lot of retirement that's happening, or a lot of people that are moving out into other careers. Okay, so if we look in healthcare, for example, we look in aviation, we look in some manufacturing environments, that's a very real challenge that they're facing right now in those industries, people retiring or people moving out of those careers and choosing to go into others. All that knowledge would historically walk out the door. So we want to try to capture all of that. And that's where ProcessPro steps in. Having unpredictable outcomes because of those inconsistent processes that I was telling you about. I mean, I am horrified at how many organizations still don't have consistent onboarding and offboarding processes. Just those two processes alone, if we bookend an organization with those, sets the tone with your onboarding. How quickly can the person get to productivity and be contributing, which they want to do? So how quickly and how smoothly can that happen, and how consistent? It sends a message about your organization, right? We all know this. So what are we doing about it? And then, of course, the offboarding, right? How do we make sure it happens, that the computers are collected consistently, that the systems are shut down consistently, all of those pieces, right? And how smooth it can make things happen. All right.
Dana, if you don't mind
Yeah.
making a very quick comment at your previous slide. So not that we anticipate disasters, but the weather continues to change. We have weirdness, if you will, happening.
Yeah.
Businesses are really being impacted by our climates and such. And the loss of, should I say, productivity and documentation, things like that, is very key,
Mhm.
because if I have to restart my business, where do I
Yeah.
go? Where do I just gather the people in one big room and say, okay, guys, what are we doing before all this thing happened? You know, we've had
Right.
fires out here in California, we had hurricanes, so and so. I think that's actually, I would almost say, a must needed tool
Mm.
to document and keep those processes intact and available.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's an excellent point. The aspect of disaster recovery, if you will, right? Business continuity.
Yes, thank you. That
So
was the word I was looking for.
yeah, the business continuity, exactly. And we have built in functionality within ProcessPro to be able to identify what are your business critical processes, and then what are those that are next tier down. So, if you have a risk manager on your team and they're very interested in ensuring that business continuity piece, they want to make sure that those processes are clearly identified, they want to be able to audit against those, all those pieces, we have that functionality built in.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So that's a bit of the foundation. And what I want you to think about is, as you're just becoming familiar with ProcessPro and, thinking about your organization, and also thinking about who else do you know, and how might a tool like this serve in our communities and in our organizations. ProcessPro it's a process management platform, but one of the things that I think significantly differentiates this tool is that it's designed to empower teams. So it is intended to empower teams and to build collaboration and to build that transparency so that they can consistently and efficiently deliver those quality products and results. So as we're looking at this, and I'm going to jump forward and go through a demo with you so you can get a little bit of more exposure to it here. As you're looking at the tool, I want you to really be looking at the ways that it creates empowerment, all right, and how it really helps facilitate quickly capturing information so that you can move past the process world of old and into a process environment that's designed to empower, to create, to energize, to build collaboration. Okay? But then the other thing that I think is a significant differentiator here is that this is a tool that was built by and for managers and teams. So this tool was not designed or built by a coder that was sitting out there and said, hey, I want to build a better Visio. I want to, it wasn't built by somebody who said, I want to build a better mousetrap. It was built by and for managers and teams, the people really who are utilizing the content, utilizing the information because of their commitment to delivering those predictable outcomes, reducing the risks like you were talking about, Nove, right? And being able to improve the customer experience. So you'll see some substantial differences in the way things are designed in the solution and the way that it operates as a result of that, okay? A couple of high-level elements, and everyone will have copies of this, and of course you'll have the video as well. So I'm just going to show these very quickly. I've highlighted a few things where I think there's a really nice, elegant crossover with the HCM assessment. And, and this is in the areas of being able to identify what are those value streams across the organization? Where do we add value? So yes, all the transaction, we all know here in the room, if you put an HR lens on it, that if we don't do payroll, we don't get to do anything else, right? If we don't maintain good HR data, then the rest of the stuff is off the plate for us, right? So most important, what are the values or the value that we're delivering, right? Those critical business processes, what are those pieces? Being able to focus in on that. And like I said, I think there's a really nice intersection here with the HCM assessment. And then being able to categorize things, find things quickly, provide all the supporting content, not only the knowledge of how to do things, but also the documentation, the documents. So this is I like to say, and James may think this is cringeworthy, I like to say that ProcessPro is both a process management environment and it's also a document management environment, because it brings all those pieces together so that the person doing the work has everything they need at their fingertips. And they also have access to the tools that they need. So you can think of it as a dashboard as well. So they have access to, if it is a Workday, for example, they can click through to Workday to input content, right? So you can kind of think of ProcessPro as that work dashboard, and it outlines what work needs to be done, what the steps are, who's doing it, and direct access to the tools where the work does get done, okay?
Diana, this is Nova. I apologize. Do you mind if I ask a very quick question? Because you brought up an interesting thought. So you mentioned documentation and in a sense, being able to identify that in a process. Does ProcessPro have an ability for me to search? So I want to look, where do I see the word I-9 in any process?
Yeah,
and if I did,
all of your processes, yeah. Yep.
Okay. Because we all know, we all adapted the I-9 process to adapt to the hybrid workforce. Now the labor laws are now pulling us back to a slightly different perception, which means I have to change process. The ability to do that universally or enterprise-wide is just a phenomenal capability. It's standardizing.
Yeah, yep, it sure does. It sure does. Yep, so we have the ability to search for those words throughout the database, throughout the entire database.
Perfect.
Yep, so it can just take you straight there, make those edits. In fact, maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll build an I-9 process. We'll see.
I'll borrow a quote from a movie. You had me at search.
I had you at search. Beautiful. All right. So we'll just keep it at a very high level here. And then I'm chomping at the bit to get the tools. So if that works for you, no, we'll
Absolutely.
go and get right
I'll slow down the questions. Thank you.
I love it. No, let's keep them coming. That's great. So everybody, I think, has probably seen this type of framework before. And when we do processes, we do the HCM assessment, any of these pieces, we're always anchoring back around what's the vision and the guiding principles for the organization. Then we know we have people, product, and we have processes. And this is the heart of where we're focused, is right in on these processes. Now, we're here as a tech community, as an HR community, but remember, of course, processes go across the entire organization. So it's not uncommon for an influencer or a decision maker to collaborate across other functional areas and bring this solution in and be able to actually start energizing, if you will, if I use that word, energizing even more of their organization around processes. Because remember, it's the customer's end result that you're going after. And the tool, again, was built by managers and by teams, for managers and for teams. So it has that strong orientation. Okay. All right. I'm going to jump forward. I want to jump on into ProcessPro. And so we're going to take a real quick look here. I'm going to show you a process. And then I do want to take a run at building an I-9 verification process. I have not built one before, so it'll be brand new. We'll be building it real time here, and we're going to leverage the AI technology and see what happens. All right. But what I wanted to just get everybody oriented to very, very quickly is this information here. When somebody comes into ProcessPro and you enter in here for the first time, of course, you won't have any processes in here. But remember, I told you have access to the APQC library, hundreds of processes that are already built out and available to you to be able to pick and choose from and just bring right in. So it's a fast start, if you will, think about it that way. I'm going to keep it high level. I really want you to see how we build things, and then I am absolutely thrilled to hop on a phone call with anybody and build out a process for your team, so you can just kind of get your hands on here as well. Okay. So When we come into the dashboard, of course, all the processes that are available are right up here, and everything is easily sortable. We can go into favorites and just really zero in on those processes that are specific to you or that you've identified or worked with previously. Okay. The tool has the full search capability, just as you were asking about Nove. So right now, I'm pretty sure if I type in I-9, we're probably not going to find anything at the moment. And we'll just test it out real fast. Yep. So nothing yet. We will build something though. All right.
Great.
Also, the tool allows you to be able to communicate. Remember, I mentioned that this tool is really about building teams, collaboration, sharing knowledge. So the communication structure is quite strong in here as well, including assigning tasks to people. If there are processes that have certain actions that need to be done, other notifications, there's a full approval routing that's all built in here as well for your processes, as well as going through on a regular cadence to review them. Remember the aspect of we want to solve for the regular updates that may need to happen. So maybe it's once a year. You go through and you look at processes and you refine them, or you update them if they need to be updated. Or if you're heavily audited, if you're doing any kind of government contract work, for example, needing to stay in alignment with GSA regulations, anything along those lines, you might be ISO compliant. Everything in here, you can build your structures for regular audit cadences. Auditors love this tool because of the rigor that's been built in around this, okay? And it is easy. It really is designed to keep things easy, right? I'm going to dive into a process real quick and just give you a feel for what one of the end results could look like. Okay, and this is one that I was just playing around with a little bit earlier today. So this would be conducting an annual performance review. All right, it's a very straightforward process. When we take a look at it, anyone who's familiar with processes and process maps, you might be familiar with a view that looks a little bit like this one here. So this is a classic process view, right? So this is very simply, this is the process on how to conduct a performance review, an annual performance review. So the HR manager launches the performance review, and then the manager is responsible for these steps: scheduling the review, preparing for the review, discussing the employee accomplishments. Now, this is where we might actually have links through to different systems. So for example, I might actually want to create a link from this particular step and put it through to Workday, for example. Okay, so I can update and I can make these connections to all of my other solutions that are out there. This is integration. Okay? Again, when I contrast with the old world of processes, the old world of processes, it was a Visio diagram, for example, or a Lucid Charts diagram. They were very complex, difficult to understand. They sat in a discrete document somewhere, and very few people accessed them, referenced them, updated them. They were quite an exclusive club. We've brought that forward. Now, this can literally serve as that dashboard again. So a manager looking at this might click through into, I've been choosing Workday, might click through into Gusto, for example, and launch the performance review templates right there, okay? Or might click through to Bamboo, or might click through to a Word document. What if you don't use one of those systems? What if you use a Word document or a Google document? Again, you can give them direct access into those source of truth documents from here, okay? Now, this is kind of the classic view. And anecdotally, what I've realized is that probably 20% of the population understands a view like this and can read, interpret, and follow an illustration like this. The other 80% of the population, eyes glaze over, which helps to explain why we lose a lot of people when we start talking about processes, right? However, here's what we've done, because remember, this was designed by managers and teams, for managers and teams. So the intention is, how do we make it most relevant and understandable? Make it useful. So what we've done is we've created a different view. We have a view here that allows us to display the roles in the activity boxes. And what that ultimately does is it takes that entire traditional flow and it turns it into a nice linear picture. And it color codes it. So now, everywhere throughout the entire database, anywhere that an HR manager has an action that they need to do. So no, this ties back to your comment about the job descriptions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So anywhere that an HR manager has an activity that they need to do across all the processes, their activity will show up in this beautiful lime green color. So instantly, an HR manager, when they come into a process, they will immediately see what activities they need to do and which ones they don't need to worry about doing because a different role is doing them. Okay. This has been a big game changer for our clients.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you to take a process and translate it effectively into a language that others and most will now understand. Okay. And that is a simple toggle switch that is directly in the end user's control. They can decide if they want to view things this way. Now, we've also designed this tool, again, I've been talking a little bit about how fast and easy it is to build content in here. So we've also designed it in a way that if people want to build off of the map, they can build off of the map. If they want to build off of what we call our diagram content or procedure view, they can build right off of here as well. So all the same detail that exists on the map and within these particular activities, the detail in these here, so let me left mouse click instead of right mouse click. So here are the details of what needs to get done in each of the activities. And it might, again, have links to systems, files attached, notes, all of these pieces. Over here, they can see all of that same information, all laid out across the entire process.
So Diana, if you don't mind my asking another question, as always.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm looking at what I would call some of the key things in a process have to do with delivery. In other words, let's say I was looking at somebody doing a help desk, and I need to answer clients back within timeframes. Can I embed within the context of this process the time needed? In other words, this has to be done within the day, or this must be done within a week, or whatever the case is. And I see that as such a valuable metric to even look at the process and its speed. If I were doing, let's say, a recruiting process, and people are saying it's taking us forever to fill jobs. Well, I can look at this process and how quickly it's being done vis-a-vis the real stuff. So if that's being embedded in there, that is golden.
Yes, exactly. That's right. That's right. We have time and cost analysis in here as well.
Outstanding. Wow.
Yep. So we have the ability to capture both of those. Yep. You got it.
Very
so
nice.
this allows you to have that kind of view, as you were describing, of what is it that it, and I've got mine in dark mode right now. I realize that may be a little bit hard to see. I can switch, I'll switch that in a moment. But it allows us to be able to see what is the processing time, what is the wait time, what is it, how long does it take, and then to be able to lay cost on top of that, so that, and this is where I start to geek out in the process world. So I apologize to everybody here. When you start looking at processes that way, and then you start seeing, you just do these little tweaks and little fine tuning, and this is maybe you do a step because it's always been done that way, right? And so this is one of those areas where you can start to map out what future state processes might look like, and actually run analysis on it that way before you even put it into play, right? So if you're in a highly structured work environment or industry, you could do all the rigor around it. If you're a little bit looser structure and don't require as much analysis to do it, you can do these very quick and dirty, I call them quick and dirty check some things, test it out, run a quick pilot with somebody, lay it in and see what happens, right? And you're documenting along the way. So the tool is coming along with you. Yeah.
So Dan, I'm not going to say this yet. I'll save it for the very end, but I'm going to say that there's a brand new way to look at performance. And I want to say that this product lends itself tremendously better than what I've ever seen to date. And so you're not even addressing performance. It's the byproduct of what you're doing in just process documentation.
Yeah.
So, very cool.
It's true. It's true. Yep. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I do want to go create that I-9 process. So I want to show everybody here really how simple things are and how quickly we can create a process. I think that for a lot of us, that's kind of been the gating factor, right? In the past, it just has taken, it feels like a daunting task sometimes, to document processes. And I was talking with one of my colleagues here at Pendolino Group earlier today. We were talking about HR, and I said, when you think about it, there's really just 5 processes that kind of govern everything that we do in HR for the most part, right? And payroll aside, I gotta hire people, and I need to onboard them, and I need to take care of their benefits, and I need to offboard them, and I need to manage their performance, right? And so, if I just even work with a team, and again, this offer is here for anybody who is listening to this and participating with us here. Anyone who's interested, I'll sit with you and let's just map out those 5 processes, right, for your team, right? Let's just do that. And and I think that one of the things that is really exciting is how quickly we can do those things. Now, admittedly, those are high level. Okay. And it's when we get down into those details, like I-9s, for example. Okay. So let's see how we complete an I-9 verification, right? So we're going to complete an I-9 verification. We're just going to fire up a little process here real quick. I'm not going to bore you with putting in what the objectives are and all of that. We'll make the HR manager the owner here. I can choose any other role throughout the organization or users to be the owner in here, but I'm just going to leave it as the HR manager. Remember, everything is searchable. So now that I've typed in I-9, as soon as I save this, we could search for I-9 and this will come up. There may be other tags you want to put, searchable tags that you want to add in as well, any special codes or something like that. Okay. And then organization is key, right? So we can organize, and we actually use, this is all set up for you. You choose what your structures are. Think of it as a filing cabinet. Okay. So I'm just going to leave this in here, and we'll add this process. All right. So now I've got my shell, as I call it, my little shell of a process. I don't have any activities yet. I don't know how I'm going to go about doing it yet. So I have a couple of options. I can create this thing, and I can create it by adding one activity at a time. And I haven't done a real deep dive on how to go about all of that, but I could just create an activity here, and it could be like obtain the blank form, etc. Okay, spelling always seems to happen together. So I could just drop that in there. The HR manager does that. So I could just add that activity. And then literally I could just keep adding activities. I could even add them here if I wanted to. I just wanted to drop in a new activity and just build it right here on the map. Okay, so very, very quickly I can build out a process that way. And you get quite quick doing it. It's like giving instructions to somebody. Okay. But I want to do it really, really fast. Okay. That's fast, but I want to do it really fast. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate our integration with ChatGPT. Okay.
Yay.
So what I've got here is the ability to generate a process, and it automatically picked up the title of my process here, complete an I-9 verification. Okay. I'm going to actually just ask ChatGPT to create a process with only 8 steps. Now, if I want to get really granular, I could say, give me a process of 25 steps. But for now, I'm just going to keep it simple. Just give me 8 steps, the 8 high-level steps that I need to do. Okay. And I could choose to directly import them into the process, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead, generate it so you can see it, because I want you to see how fast this happens. So let's go ahead and let's generate this. Okay. And there we go. All right. So ChatGPT just basically did this for me. So I can go through this list now and decide which one of these activities do I want to bring in. Complete the I-9 form. Yep, we got to do that. We got to submit it to, yep, do that. Employer reviews the I-9. Yep, okay. Verify. Again, these are at a higher level. Okay, so I'm going to verify that. Okay, so I'm just like bringing this in. And if I wanted to add all of them, I could obviously do that, but I just wanted you to kind of see a little bit of this. Okay, so now I quite literally, I have built at the higher, I'm going to call it the higher level here. I have built my I-9 process.
Wow, that is great.
Isn't that awesome? And I can move straight into filling in some of the details. So for example, this review the documents for accuracy. Now I can just drop it here and I can edit that, or I can add in tasks underneath it. So, you know, maybe it's the how do I review? Okay. You know, compare the docs against the reports. So we can just be dropping these pieces right on in here. And this allows us to build out the details now. I can add in notes if there's a warning, right? So there might be a warning in here that's firm. They are authentic, right? And that might be something that I say, wow, you know, that's a warning. I want to make sure that is always covered. Okay. And how do I confirm that it's authentic? You know, I make sure that in fact, I should write it that way.
So Diana, as you're going through this, I apologize again. It's just, this is what I would call more than fascinating. It's like, wow. So the world of AI has allowed us to say 2 things. Go out to the internet and find anything and everything, or restrict yourself to this. In other words, here's the box I'm going to put AI in and let it do. So when I asked that question about searching, there's no need to do that. I could give AI the constriction to say, stay in our organization, but all the stuff you see in documentation and content in our organization, go find me the stuff around I-9 or whatever. And then to your point, I could verify what both federal and possible state situations might be based on what the internet is going to say about authentication. So in all honesty, it is helping me to stay in as much compliance as possible. I mean, I look at this and it's just a phenomenal opportunity with AI, with a bounded around trying to get something out of this. I'm just absolutely, I want to say I'm amazed with it, but I'm not amazed. I'm just thrilled beyond belief this exists.
Yeah. It's very exciting. It's very exciting. And, you know, I mean, you know, you and I have known each other for quite some time, and the, to see the evolution that's happening with AI in the world today, and, you know, just thinking, in fact, I'm launching a weekly chat on Fridays. If I can put a quick plug in, it's Fridays at noon Pacific time, or I'm sorry, East Coast time, and we're diving into specifically the intersection between AI and technology and human resources, and it's the AI portion and human resources. I think that the introduction of technology and automation and, you know, those things I think have of course, you know, helped accelerate portions of HR. They've been focused in mostly, I think, on the administrative aspects of HR. When we bring AI into the conversation now, I think that, you know, that in the world of HR, I believe that will be an absolute game changer for us in the world of HR. And just imagining how we can leverage AI to, I mean, here's a great example. We can leverage it to accelerate this piece. And now, where as an HR professional, where my value is, where your value is our experience to be able to do a deep dive into this and to fine tune and to tweak and to adjust and to be able to quickly communicate, to be able to make sure, that all of the nuances are captured, right, from our experience, right?
Yeah.
And I heard a great quote. I think James and Whitney have both heard me say this before. This quote just blew me away. It's, AI is not going to take your job. The person who knows how to use AI is going to take your job.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so we're really excited about how we've been able to, James leading the team, how they've been able to bring the AI piece in here. They're doing some really cool stuff around organization charts as well, because that's another piece, in the world of HR. There is just no good org chart solution out there.
Yeah.
Well, org charting happens from two perspectives. There's the org charting that happens from a process perspective and the roles reporting to roles and whatnot. Then there's also an org chart, a people org chart, and imagine an org chart that will automatically generate in here, because we can build relationships with the users, management relationships.
I love it.
The org chart will automatically generate, and it'll say, oh, here's Nove, and and Nove reports to John, and Nove is involved in, by virtue of the roles that you're assigned to, Nove is involved in these 20 different processes.
Yeah.
Now, remember what I mentioned earlier about bottlenecks?
How many Noves do you have in the company?
Right. Exactly. Instantly on a visual org chart, I can see Nove. He's a bottleneck because we've been leaning on him too much for all of these processes.
Exactly. Now, like I say, this is a tool that has myriad value across the enterprise. And like you said, you've pointed out 4 or 5 already in just this hour. We're coming up to the hour, but I wanted to be able to say to the crowd that I've done before, any questions, comments, and so on, I'm going to keep the recording going, because this is way too much fun and too much informative to cut it short. So for those that may have to leave, I want to say thank you, but I do have a couple of questions, if you don't mind, and I'll toss them out there.
Yeah.
So I want to let you finish the demo, and then I'll pose those questions to you.
I think we're in a great spot, actually.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So as you've mentioned, AI, it certainly opens up lots of possibilities. Mm-hmm. What I have heard, and in many of these conversations, and these are kind of, I'll call it thinking edge situation, not even leading edge, but thinking edge. They haven't even let it into something. But a lot of people are taking the jobs and breaking them into task-related perspectives. In other words, Nove does this piece real well, but he has these other 14 steps of which he really doesn't do very well, or he doesn't like to do them, or you have to force him to come in and do that. So they're now taking it down to task, and they're trying to understand what's coming into the task, i.e. from another person, or is it originated externally, and where does this task now go to next? And what they're trying to do in that task situation is trying to evaluate, and that's why I asked us about the costs and time situation, is to evaluate what is the value of that task. Is it really providing value? In other words, if the person before me is giving me work that's not valued and I have to redo it, there's a problem that up the line. The same thing going the other way. But if I can find ways to continue to improve the time, the cost, and the value oriented across these, in a sense, it's really done a micro productiveness, if you will. And that's what people are looking, and that changes the whole thought process about how do you evaluate teams as a group, because their output is the value of the team, but all the individuals in the team, how do you compensate, or if you will, evaluate their productivity and just all the aspects. So the performance world is starting to move to look at outcome, not time spent, if you will, and that value,
Yeah.
that quality that's given. So I'm curious. I'll just
That's beautiful.
stop,
Yeah.
put the question there. It looks like the tool is very well poised to start addressing that.
Yeah, I mean, you've really just hit on what we would consider a classic definition of a process, which is the output. What is the output that you are intending to get, you need to get, and what are those tasks necessary to get there, to get that quality output, and what are the inputs that need to come in. We use slightly different language. We use activities in there rather than the task. But that said, this all breaks down to tasks. That's absolutely right. And by focusing on the output and the quality of the output, if you're not getting that quality, that's one line of review, right? What are the and are each of those tasks working backwards? Are each of those tasks being completed to their necessary level of quality? And then the second component is, as you touched on, are all of those tasks actually necessary? Right. And and this is the one that some may know the story, the ham story. It sounded like hamster, but it wasn't. Ham story. The mom, and it was Thanksgiving, and the mom was putting a ham in the oven, and she chopped the ends off the ham and put it in the pan and slid it into the oven. And her daughter asked, "Well, why do you chop the ends off?" Right? Wanting to know about the recipe. And mom said, "Well, this is how we do it, and and you should really ask your grandmother, right? And why it's done this way, and how it affects the flavor of the ham, et cetera, et cetera." And the granddaughter went and talked to her grandmother, and she's like, "Yammy, why do we cut the ends off?" And she said, "Oh, honey, we do that because the pans back in my day weren't large enough to hold the ham." Right?
Yes, traditional hand-me-downs on how we do things. Thank you. I love it. I love it. I do have one other question around the capabilities, and I don't mean to, as you said, push this, but I think that there's a solution. Just standing. I'm a multinational global organization, and I have to do the processes. So I'm crossing people, geographical boundaries, compliance laws, and so on, and God forbid, multilingual. So I thought I'd just throw that curve in there.
I think you just described most of our companies, right?
Yeah. Well, in all honesty, to your point, exactly that. Even the small companies I see here in Silicon Valley, we have 3 people. We have one in Japan and one in Europe and one in South America. Those are but they're part of the organization. You have to include them as part of the workforce.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate that the multilingual compliance situation can and perhaps will be addressed through this introduction of the AI component, or are you already positioned to do multilingual in capturing the processes in ProcessPro?
I think I think there are maybe 2 questions in there that I'd like to answer. If you intended to ask 2, or
yes, I did. I actually
maybe I just want to answer 2.
About 10. No, be my guest. We're friends.
Exactly. So everybody here, you can imagine what our conversations over dinner are like. They go on for
exactly.
hours. So from an international standpoint, right now, if you just look at the skin of the tool, it's all in English. And we've taken that language as the most common spoken language from a business perspective. However, when you look at where the real meat is of the tool, it's not in the skin, right? The menus and all of that stuff. The real meat is in the content of the processes.
Yes.
And so, in there, you can be writing in your native language in there.
Yes.
Okay. So, and that will continue to evolve. So absolutely, that will continue to evolve. And James has been down that path in the past and knows those paths to navigate as well. which is another reason that I'm a massive fan, because he's been down the path, right? He knows
Yeah.
where those pieces are that can really be game changers. Your question about the AI piece, I think, is an interesting one, where I'm not sure if the AI component, I'm not qualified to comment on the AI component as it relates to language. However, I do know, and I have used AI this way, both ChatGPT and Cloud AI this way, where it can provide responses to me in the context of a culture.
Yes.
And I think that is really exciting. If I'm working a compliance issue, or let's say I'm working an employee relations issue, and I have somebody from Canada and I have somebody from Saudi Arabia. Okay, so very different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm helping to navigate through those. And of course, there may be a dynamic of one is a manager and one is the employee, reporting staff, or maybe they're peers, but they're very different cultures. And I can actually use AI to help me learn quickly how to position and how to message things to those two different cultures, those two different backgrounds from that perspective, to help me be more effective in helping them be more effective.
Yeah, absolutely great. I don't want to overestimate it. Let me allow you first to just simply maybe some parting words, since that, and I'll kind of close out our meeting. But I do have one comment, but I'll save that for a moment. So please, Diana.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I think that the world of processes, it has come so far, and I'm so passionate about what this type of tool can do, in terms of bringing teams together, helping to bring technology together and really, really make it work for us in this way. We all know that we have processes, they're either understood or they're made up. And they're either consistently applied or they're new and different every single time. And the focus that we have now in terms of the environment that we're in, where we're cross-cultural, we're cross geographies, we're cross time zones, our teams are distributed, being able to have a tool that is effectively designed by managers and teams to be able to communicate and really allow for that kind of transparency, that integration and the collaboration. I just think it's a huge game changer. I'm excited about connecting up with anyone who has been on this call and is interested. Nov, I did get one note from Amanda, so I'm excited about chatting with her, with you, and and everyone else. I've made my offer. I will absolutely adore the opportunity to hop on a line with you, hop into ProcessPro, build out your 5 processes together. You saw how quickly we can do that. And I might be so bold as to say, let's do it in an hour. We could give it a shot. I'm really, really excited about that. And sharing more of this conversation as well about the game-changing nature of technology and AI for our world in HR and technology as a whole. So thank you. Well, thanks for this opportunity, Nov, and thank you for
you've kept us entertained for well over an hour, and I have to say, well, you personally, but the product certainly, it was a nice secondary actor in this situation. But no, thank you very much. And I will tell the crowd right now that quite literally we will be bringing Diana and ProcessPro back to the table, because I think we want to get a little deeper in seeing these perspective. I'm going to end this with a little bit of a, shall we say, my observation. I have seen more demonstrations of using ChatGPT and AI to write a position description. And it is beyond my understanding why they would go that way when you've got ProcessPro and the visualization and the documentation of what the process is, what the person does. Why don't they just use your database and ChatGPT to build a position description this way, rather than, in a sense, build it from position description down to the person? It just makes too much sense. And I love the idea that maybe in your podcast on the weekly basis, you might bring that up and ask people, which would you rather have? A position description written by friends who don't think that, at the HR manager level, I think that's what Diana does. So I'm going to write that out in position description and hand that to the recruiter, or I'm going to say, give me the ProcessPro documentation that goes with what Diana does. That's kind of a loaded question. But no, thank you very, very much. And James, having heard that, I think you have another project waiting there for ProcessPro. I'd be very happy to introduce you to some of these new performance folks that are trying to think down this task way. I think ProcessPro would be a tool they could latch onto right off the bat, and it would make their value proposition to the clients much better. Thank you very, very much, folks. Thank you for joining us here at the Technology Review Council, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.